My name is Erin Wahl, and you can see today I'm going to be talking about shifting instruction for sustainability. And I am the instruction coordinator at New Mexico State University Library. And I'm also, because being on the tenure track is not difficult enough, I'm also decided to do a PhD program while I'm here, which because I've always wanted one. So I'm actually a doctoral student in the Educational Leadership and Administration program here as well. And so you're going to see kind of both of those identities, my librarian identity and my education student identity, kind of come out in this presentation. So something else that might be helpful to know about me if you see me around in different contexts is sustainability, specifically sustainability and applying those concepts to librarianship and information literacy pedagogy and the way we teach overall is my biggest research interest. So this is probably not the last time you're going to hear about me somewhere talking about this. So this first bit is the official land acknowledgement statement from my university. And I also added in a little bit about a land acknowledgement for Zoom because we're doing this over Zoom, and Zoom also is on land that's traditionally belonged to Native American peoples. And so I just wanted to recognize the land that I'm on. And then I also have a little bit here that says, I recognize that my access to resources on this land is linked to historic and ongoing acts of colonialism. And with respect, as a collaborator, I'm committed to maintaining relationships with Indigenous people and communities. I wish I could say I came up with that myself. I actually borrowed this with permission from a colleague at another university because I think it's very important for me to say something about my commitment to this as well. And if you're not familiar with why these statements are important and why as a land grant university, it's particularly important that NMSU has this kind of statement. I do have a link here that will send you to more information on this. And I'm not going to get into this. It's not the main part of my presentation, but this is actually an important part of considering sustainability the way that I define it here in my presentation. So I've got these presentation objectives here for you guys today. I'm hoping that I get to all of them. We're going to find out how good my time management is. And I'm anticipating that at least one of these, I'm not going to have time to cover it enough. And so that's okay. I'm going to leave time at the end for questions. And I'm also going to give you my contact info. I'm very, very, very willing to share resources and talk more about these things with you if you are interested. So 2020 was going to be a really great year. I had a lot of things planned. And then we had a pandemic. And this picture here is a representation of all my dreams floating out of my reach. And one thing that sort of surprised me, but when I think back, maybe it's not so surprising. But one thing that surprised me is that the requests we had for library instruction went way down over the pandemic year. And at first I was a little confused. I thought, whoa, you would think more people might want library instruction. And then I thought about it and I realized several things. One, everybody was teaching online and a lot of people had never done that before. And Zoom fatigue, as we all know, is a very real thing. So one of my hypotheses that I haven't had a chance to test yet is that instructors were prioritizing delivering their subject content over supportive content like library instruction, which is really understandable. We never like to cut the things that we hold closest to our hearts. So, what should we cut? Oh, library instruction seems fine. How else are we supposed to get things done, in the rest of our class and deliver the content our students need? So that's one thing I was thinking that might be going on. And the other thing I realized is that we were doing a terrible job of selling our sets of skills. If faculty members really see one-shot instruction as the only thing that we do, then of course we are not as relevant to them in this moment. So obviously there needed to be a shift. Now, this didn't actually upset me at all because I've been wanting to make this shift since I got here. I've been wanting to make some changes in the way we talk about library instruction. So in my case, the pandemic sort of gave me this great opportunity to move us in a more progressive direction. So this is the definition of sustainability I've been using in all of my work so far. I knew somebody would try to get a hold of me, and I didn't shut the right window. This is a definition I've been working on using in all my work because sustainability has entered the realm of being a buzzword, and it's really important because of that when we use it, we need to define it. So today, when you think about sustainability, the two main E's that I'm going to be hitting are economy and equity, and specifically the longevity of the things that I'm talking about. So the pandemic shut us down, and library instruction had to go where the people are, because traditionally the NMS Youth Library has been waiting on them to come to us. The most traditional form of library instruction, the one shot, is a lot of what we were doing here when I got here. And my biggest worry is that the classes we see without fail every semester, they were my biggest worry. I wanted to make sure they had the same experience in an online format, since they wouldn't be able to be in the building. At the same time, our department lost a person at the end of spring 2020, so we're even more short-staffed. And so I created this library orientation module, and I dropped it into Canvas Commons, and you can see here some screenshots of the module. And Canvas is the LMS, the learning management system that we use here at NMSU. And most of other LMS systems have some sort of like commons area. And when I created this, it was giving that basic library orientation that students would get just from coming into the library for a one-shot session. And one thing I did is I made it openly, by putting it into Canvas Commons, I made it openly accessible to anyone. So anybody from NMSU can use it. Any other person using Canvas Commons can also take that module and drop it into their course. So I don't know why maybe a university in Arizona would want to use this, for example, but if they wanted to, they could. And this is just the beginning. So this was step one. I'm also working on a module for graduate students, one for government documents and one for archives and special collections. And I'm cooperating with those library departments to create those. This fall, there's going to be a faculty survey, and they're all going to be revised accordingly. So hopefully they'll be even more helpful. And then we'll continue developing these things really strategically to fit into coursework, so that professors have them right away available. This is a very short slide. So over the summer, this last summer, I took part in NMSU's, it's a CDI, which is Course Development Institute program. And this helps faculty develop online courses with design and accessibility in mind. We do teach 4-credit classes in the library here. And so I was redoing one of our 4-credit online classes. So they use quality metric standards. And there's a link to it right here. And QM doesn't designate exactly how a course should look, just what's supposed to be in it. But the folks who developed CDI developed that standard template that you saw on the previous page. And so since it's already in use on campus, I went with that template because it would be familiar to people. And if you're interested in things like QM standards or developing standards for similar work at your own library, my mentor in that program, Christina, who's really lovely, she and I co-wrote a little baby article, and it'll be in the next ACRL instruction section newsletter if you're interested. And it goes into some open access options for this as well, because QM does require an institutional subscription. So this module was the start of it all. And anyone who knows me knows that these things are very much like if you give a moose a muffin situation. So I was off and running to the next thing already. the pandemic had made changes necessary, and I was ready to implement all sorts of plans I had been making, and I was waiting for the right moment. So another thing that we've done is we've started embedding SpringShare's LTI tool into the Canvas learning management system. And there are two choices, manual and automatic. And so far we've turned on the manual one. And this is probably the most important because we're talking about bringing things to people and reducing this idea of gatekeeper status that sometimes libraries have. So the manual tool allows the faculty to choose for themselves what they want. Things like library guides, A to Z databases, calendars and bookings. They can drop whatever they want of those things directly into their course for their students to access. So again, we're meeting people at point of need, which is really important. And if you're thinking about sustainability, an important part of equity is making sure that people have access in multiple ways. We don't want to be gatekeepers. We want to provide access in a lot of places. So the manual tool allows the faculty to choose what they want in their course. And then the automatic tool, which we're launching in the fall, is going to populate a tab based on what we've decided to include there. And it's very, very customizable. So we're working on that customization right now. One of the things I wanted to do, because I care so much about issues of sustainability, was to shift the narrative around library instruction. It has been very traditional, and I wanted to move it away from this traditional idea of what we do and allow our imaginations to come into play. So I've been focusing on this idea of who we are and how we educate beyond information literacy standards. And this is based on researcher positionality literature coming from the education discipline. You can see one of the things that I love here, which is this sort of menu that I've created for faculty of all the different ways we can help with their courses beyond that traditional one-shot session. Right now it's depressing because of COVID. It says we can't do this because a lot of the stuff that's in person, we can't do in person because of COVID. So it's a little depressing, but there's still a lot of options up there. So students don't need to do a ton of clicking around. Faculty can get what they want without us. These are important things. The faculty can get a deeper picture of how librarians can help them because we're really capable of much more than the traditional one-shot session that we're also familiar with. So as part of that,
this is your 2-minute warning. So
oh, okay. As part of that, I'm preparing a teaching philosophy, and the little bit on the left is from my department manual, and then the bit on the right is I've been asking people to send me in examples of things they like or their own teaching philosophies in my department. And so I'm hoping to create a more holistic picture of who we are as a department overall. And I've got really 3 main challenges that I have seen from all of this. And the first one is staffing. And that is obviously, I mean, who has a serious glut of librarians on their staff right now? All of us are sort of feeling, I think a lot of us are feeling this, the pinch of the budget, and people are leaving and not getting replaced, or, you know, something's happening and we don't have enough people to manage things. Another thing is communication. So there have been a lot of surveys on campus and in the library, and at NMSU, communication is something we struggle with systemically here. And so there are a lot of moves to fix that, but that means it's a challenge to get that information out. So we have to work harder on it. And then the other thing is time. So our schedule doesn't look the same anymore. We're all having to reprioritize our workflows, reimagine what our jobs look like, and they may not look the same when we emerge from this pandemic. And it's kind of exciting, and it's also kind of terrifying sometimes. And I have a lot of other things that I didn't get the time to say, but I'm actually impressed that I managed to keep it to 15 minutes.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Erin. There is a question in the chat, and I'm just going to let you answer it in the chat about if students are required to attend your sessions. And so, but thank you so much. This was wonderful. I'm going to stop recording and stop sharing, and